Dzień dobry, witaj na kanale. My name's Rob, and there are normally two subjects you shouldn't talk about at a party. That's politics and religion. But first of all, we're not at a party. And two, I love talking about both those subjects. And in today's video, we're going to discuss the recent Polish election and what it means for Poland, but also what it means for the rest of the EU. So I hope you enjoy. Let's get discussing down in the comments. Make sure you like and subscribe. Let's go.
On Sunday, Poland held a historic election, pitting the Conservative Law and Justice Party, who've ruled the country for the past 8 years, against former Prime Minister and President of the European Council, Donald Tusk, and his centrist Civic coalition. This marks a culmination of a decades-long power struggle between the two political camps, with this year's campaign being particularly divisive. According to many analysts and commentators, rule of law in Poland has severely deteriorated under its current government.
I have to stop it straight there. It's funny because Law and Justice Party, right, that basically says exactly what they stand for in their name, bold, there it is. And by the sounds of it, that is what they've failed on. Like, if you're going to have the name of what you stand for, you know, straight there in your title of your party, you should be quite good at it, surely. That should be your main thing that you're good at. However, like, I think we're discovering that the harder you are on your population, the worse people's behaviour, because people don't like, you know, the idea of law and justice, you know, that the working class want law and justice. They want people, you know, to be dealt properly. But actually, the harder a government is on their people, the worse people behave, because no one likes being controlled. No one likes being told what to do. And so maybe that's the situation that's happened. You know, at the end of the day, it's like the Tories over here. They stand for good financial management. And I know things have happened, i.e. the C word and things, but that's the one thing they've been awful at. It's hilarious.
While relations with the EU have been tense, to say the least.
Yeah.
Donald Tusk is, however, not without his own controversy and facing investigation for alleged abuse of power during his previous tenure as Prime Minister. So in this video, we'll take a look at Sunday's election, why it was so important not just to Poland, but also the EU, and what happens next. Before we start, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell to stay in the loop and be notified when we release new videos.
Do it.
Since 2005, the Polish political landscape has been dominated by the rivalry of two parties. Law and Justice, led by Jarosław Kaczyński, and the Civic Platform under Donald Tusk. Each party draws support from two distinct geographic blocs. The west of the country and large cities consistently vote for Civic Platform, while the east and the countryside backs Law and Justice. Between 2005 and 2007, Law and Justice led its first government, but its rule was cut short by a corruption scandal involving their junior coalition partner, paving the way for early elections. These were decisively won by Donald Tusk, who served as Prime Minister between 2007 and 2014, until resigning to serve as President of the European Council. However, Civic Platform failed to produce a strong candidate to replace Tusk, and was subsequently beaten by Law and Justice in the 2015 election. Ever since, Law and Justice have controlled the government, with Kaczyński serving as de facto leader.
I think sometimes you can tell a lot by what someone looks like. And I know you can say you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. And yes, I partly agree. But sometimes, especially it seems in politics, there are just people that look like they behave, okay? I can give examples over here. Rishi Sunak, he looks like he's a rich snob that will do anything to make more money. Boris Johnson, he looks like a clown. Oh, look, he behaved like a clown. I'm not sure how trustworthy this chap looks. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know him. I don't know enough, so it may be an ignorant comment. I'm just saying sometimes politicians look like how they behave.
Despite not being Prime Minister himself. Law and Justice's tenure was marked by a series of spats with the EU over everything from immigration to judicial independence, and the European Commission is currently withholding billions of euros in funds for Poland over its alleged rule of law breaches. Anyway, after failing to unseat Law and Justice in the 2019 election, the Civic platform faced an internal crisis and saw its polling numbers collapse. To prevent its demise, Donald Tusk decided to return to the forefront of national politics and was duly re-elected as party leader in 2021. Ever since, polling for the Civic platform and its electoral coalition called the Civic Coalition has improved significantly. The smaller Polish People's Party and Poland 2050 movement formed another centrist coalition called the Third Way ahead of the election. And together with the Social Democratic Left Party, they've made up a wide anti-government bloc.
I think I'm going to, because I don't know, I've got to learn more about the Polish parliamentary system. But so I'm going to compare with the British system, which by the looks of this graph seems very, very similar to the UK, in that what the problem is, you have the party on the right, okay? You then have the left party, maybe the central. So we have obviously Labour, who's left, Lib Dems, who's centre, and obviously Tories that are right. But also on the left, you've got lots of other parties, for example, the Green Party, and quite often independents. And what you find is actually you want something in the centre. A party in the centre should do the best job because they're taking the best bits from the right, they're taking the best bits from the left. And that should be the way that governments work. You know, it's not just about being on one side. You should think about everyone's ideas and mix the best. But what you find is there are only normally maybe one or two parties on the right, but a lot more on the left. And it normally spreads the votes too thin. So unless they sort of form a coalition, it's harder to beat the right. And obviously we have first past the post, which is awful. We really need proportional representation. But yeah, it just spreads the left vote way too thin. And by the looks of this graph, it sort of shows very similar in that obviously you've got the right, which is the Law and Justice, and then there are just multiple parties on the left, which it just gets spread too thin, and therefore it's harder to get a majority without creating a coalition.
Even holding massive rallies together.
Wow.
In order to appeal to more conservative voters, Tusk has attacked migration and even called out the government for allowing uncontrolled migration from Muslim countries.
That's a way to win votes.
Politicians, meanwhile, attacked Tusk for allegedly planning to give up half of the country in case of Russian invasion, after it had published secret defence plans from Tusk's previous government. In addition to this, Tusk faces an investigation for alleged abuse of power after apparently abusing his position to illegally inspect coal traders from Russia. Now, let's get into the results. According to the last exit poll from Ipsos, it looks like the opposition bloc is set to win a solid majority, unseating Law and Justice from power, despite Law and Justice receiving a plurality of votes with 36.6%.
But not enough to make a majority.
Civic Coalition is set to take 31%, Third Way could win 13.5%, while the left would win 8.6%, which would give the opposition bloc 248 seats, which is more than the 231 needed for a majority. This was also a pretty terrible night for the far-right Confederation Party, a potential Law and Justice coalition ally who won just 6.4% of the vote. It's also worth noting that, at least according to exit polls, turnout was the highest it's been since the fall of communism, at about 73%,
Wow.
driven in part by an impressive showing from the 18 to 29-year-olds.
I think that's an impressive stat. I want to know what our last election was now. Turnout of last UK general election. I want to see now. In 2019, we had our last election, which was won because of Brexit. Turnout in Scotland was 68%, 72% in South West, 70%. Northern Ireland had the lowest at 61%. So I would say kind of late 60s%, I would say. Yeah, no, about 70% turnout, which is okay, but it's tricky because I know in other countries like Australia, it's mandatory. You have to go and vote, but I don't know if that's a good thing. You want people to want to vote, and I think actually the world is changing now that younger people are. I don't know if this is fair to say, so don't take offense, but I think young people are more aware of the world, more caring. That may a little less selfless, maybe. Don't take that as an offense because it's not meant to be, but it's just so the more young people that are now voting, I think things are switching from the right side to more of the left side.
So, unless the exit polls are majorly off, we can expect Donald Tusk to become Poland's next Prime Minister, and Kaczynski himself already admitted that he was unsure if Law and Justice's success will be able to be turned into another term.
I think it did turn out basically like this.
This is huge for a number of reasons. For starters, it's likely to improve Poland's relations with Ukraine, given that Tusk criticised the previous government's decision to stop supplying arms to Ukraine after a spat over grain exports. But it's also going to have a massive impact on the EU. Poland, along with Hungary, has been one of the more unruly members of the European Union, and the rest of the EU has struggled to accommodate its growing military and economic heft. This rapid political shift and Tusk's ascent should significantly improve relations between the Polish government and the EU, and Tusk's history as president of the European Council might push Poland to take on a more hands-on leadership position in the Union.
Can only be a good thing.
It means that internal reforms advocated by certain EU members like France and Germany ahead of Ukraine's accession are now far more likely. For context, a big part of these reforms would be moving away from unanimity towards what's called qualified majority voting in certain policy areas, including foreign affairs. But Poland and a bunch of other countries have resisted these changes because they don't want to give up their de facto veto. Tusk is likely to be far more responsive to these proposals, and this could have enormous consequences for the EU's internal machinations. Despite this important political shift, things won't be so easy for the new government. First of all, Poland is a semi-presidential republic, with the president having the right to veto any legislation. The president's veto may be overruled by 3/5 of the parliament, a majority that Tusk might not receive. Given the fact that Poland's president Andrzej Duda is a member of Law and Justice, Tusk could face heavy obstruction by the president
in key
legislative areas, like undoing the previous government's judicial reforms. Another major problem for Tusk is the sheer ideological fragmentation of his future government. Aside from the Civic Coalition, which itself is a mishmash of centre-right liberal, agrarian and green parties, his government will have to include the Christian Democratic Third Way together with the left. Nonetheless, this is a good result for Tusk and EU unity in what was probably the most important election in Europe for some time.
If we're talking about being in the EU, I think it's not the UK not being in the EU is an absolute mess. It's a disaster. I think it's a bad thing. We're now a small country compared to what we were. We were, a big country in a sense, if that's the way you can put it. And we are now on our own. And I don't think it's good. There's a lot of restrictions now. Our poor farmers are struggling. I don't think it's a good thing. But actually, if you look at this now, the relationship Tusk has with the EU is possibly going to allow Poland to have more say in what happens in the EU as well. So that's probably better for Poland as well. So I certainly wouldn't be looking at that in a bad way. We are stronger as one. That's it. We are stronger as one, and we are divided if we are individualists, and I think the EU is a good thing.
And the various parties' mutual antipathy to Law and Justice may well be enough to see them through. With news like this constantly filling the headlines, it's easy to feel like the world's getting less safe. Fortunately, when it comes to your digital safety, NordVPN has your back.
Now, if you are interested in NordVPN, I am also sponsored by NordVPN. So what you can do is you can go to nordvpn.com/Charlie and Rob, and you will get yourself a really decent discount as well. Well, there you have it. It's an interesting one. I think the vote has gone the way that this video has said, and I think it can only be a good thing. I said, in my mind, a central party is probably the best. Look, I'm a centre-left. That's my line of thinking, because you need to be able to take aspects of the left and aspects of the right. I think Donald Tusk's relationship with the EU is only a good thing for Poland. It's going to make Poland stronger. It really, really is. I think it's fascinating. I love talking about politics. We don't all have to have the same opinions. You just don't. I think it's about being understanding. It's about not belittling people. It's about listening, and being able to have a debate without arguing, I think, is a big thing. So if you want to have a nice, friendly debate, feel free to in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. The world, hopefully at some point will be a better place. I don't know. It's all going to pot. But thank you for watching. Please do like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Pa-pa.